But I am curious for both of you because I continue hearing from voters, from activists, from advocates who say they want to see Democrats doing more. They talk about you, too. They talk about AOC and Bernie Sanders wanting and leading on this issue, being out front. Do you feel like the leadership of your party is doing, are they doing enough? And Senator Murphy, I'll start with you, with Chuck Schumer. Is he doing enough?
Well, listen, we're out here trying to, model a way to fight, to be in Republican districts, not conceding that we can't build a cross-party, cross-ideological coalition against this thievery and this corruption. So we're hopeful that, more of our colleagues are going to do what we are doing. Listen, we're going to have some real big decisions to make in the next several months. I'll give you an example that'll come up just next week. In the Senate right now, we're considering a bill to regulate the crypto industry, the stablecoin industry. And in that bill, we really need to make it clear that the President of the United States cannot issue his own stablecoin, his own meme coin, and then benefit by deals he cuts with foreign governments. That seems like a pretty easy thing to do. That would be a really good bottom line for Democrats to say, yeah, we'll vote to regulate the crypto industry, but only if we put real ethics requirements in that bill. So we'll have these opportunities coming up to show that as Democrats, we are serious about fighting corruption. We'll have another chance to deny Republicans a one-party spending bill this fall if they try to push that again as they did in the spring. So, yeah, we hope that more Democrats come out here on the road like we're doing, and we'll have lots of chances in Congress to draw some hard lines, especially in our fight against this corruption in the coming weeks and months.
And I want to add, too, it's also important to look at what everybody's doing across the country. I mean, I know many of you probably saw that news yesterday of the mayor of Newark, Ras Barack, being arrested by ICE. And right alongside him, and people that were fighting were members of the House Democratic Caucus, Rob Menendez, and different folks like that who were there using their ability to conduct oversight on ICE facilities, which, by the way, for people who don't know, members of Congress, we are allowed to show up unannounced to ICE detention facilities, and we have to be let in, and it's in the law. That's part of the reason why all that happened. And so people are figuring out the different ways that they can show leadership in this moment, whether it's showing up to ICE facilities, whether it's being on the road like Senator Murphy and I are, or doing rallies or this and that. You saw Hakeem Jeffries and Cory Booker on the steps of the Capitol doing a sit-in all day that got covered by a ton of news outlets, but also by a ton of influencers, independent media creators that are really reaching people where we need to reach them. We can't just talk to the people who consume news as a hobby. And that's part of the reason we're trying to figure out other ways to branch out of the people who are paying attention to politics and talk to people who aren't quite paying attention right now.
So we're going to have to sneak in a quick break. We're back with Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut and Congressman Maxwell Frost of Florida. Eugene?
I hear what you guys are talking about, of getting people up and everyone's going to start going out on the road, and you guys are showing the example. But I want to start with you again, Senator Murphy, quickly. Do you have faith that Chuck Schumer is meeting this moment?
I think Chuck Schumer has a really hard job, right? He's got a diverse caucus, not just ideologically. He's got a diverse caucus in terms of, whether there's consensus on how dire this moment is. So I support Chuck Schumer. And I think the real question is whether Democrats writ large are going to make the decision that this is not a moment to practice politics as normal. I'll just be honest, there is a debate inside the Democratic Party today. Can we just, kind of keep sort of punching and jabbing at Donald Trump so that, eventually we get him unpopular enough that we win the midterm elections? Or are we at risk of not having a free and fair election in 2026? Is our mission really to act with a sense of daily urgency, working with a lot of players on the outside to make sure that he doesn't destroy democracy and crush dissent to the extent that even if his approval ratings are in the 30s by the summer and fall of next year, we still can't win? So, I certainly have argued argued for more forceful tactics, and there is a debate playing out inside the Democratic Party. So that's a debate that I think we have to win, and it's part of why some of us are trying to go a little bit above and beyond to show what is necessary to make sure that we protect our democracy and we don't wake up next summer and find that, well, we're going to still have an election. It's not an election that Democrats can win because Donald Trump has rigged the rules of our democracy.
And Congressman Leader Jeffries, for you, when I talk to some of your colleagues on the Democratic side on background, because they won't say this on the record, but they will say that they want him to be more out front. They want a little more leadership from him. They don't want him to always lean on kind of the the caucus will out, right? That kind of the creed that he lives by. Is he meeting the moment?
Yeah, I mean, and I just spoke about that sit-in that they did. The leader also gave a very impactful speech on the first 100 days of Donald Trump's, government here and laying out exactly what's been going on. But I'll tell you, one of the things I really appreciate about Hakeem, who's going to be the next speaker here in just a couple of years, is that he allows our caucus and allows people in the caucus to communicate the way we want to communicate to the people we want to communicate to. And I think that's really important because everyone's asking, what is the one thing we're saying? And I do think we need to have our unified message around the fact that there's theft going on right now from the American people and working people to go to billionaires. But the way we talk about it and where we talk about it, it's going to be a little different for everybody. And I actually think that's a good thing. We can go to different places. I personally, what's authentic to me is a lot of music. I go to a lot of music festivals and do it. Not everyone's going to do that. People are going to go to spaces that maybe aren't best for me, and Hakeem recognizes that. But the other thing I want to say, too, is it's not just about what we say or how we say it, but it's about where we say it. And we love our friends at MSNBC and a lot of the more mainstream media, but we do have to branch out and get to speaking with, get to speaking with a lot of these influencers and creators at independent media that a lot of people are getting their news from. And we really got to branch out and do that. And honestly, Hakeem has been very supportive in our effort to do this. As some people may know, I ran for the DPCC, the Communications Committee. The whole reason I ran was to make sure that we were interacting more with people outside of traditional media. And we've been met with nothing but support from the leader and his team in accomplishing that. And we know it's not just a one-time thing that's going to solve everything. It's changing the way that we communicate. And I think we're moving down that road right now.